Good afternoon. I am Dylan Gaffney for BBC News. Today we are going to be talking about the life of the one, the only, Howard Stern. Howard Stern was born in January the 12th, 1954 in New York City. The man was born into a Jewish family, and at a very early age he developed an interest in radio. He used to meet people who played cartoon characters he used to watch on TV because his father worked for a radio company, which in turn resulted in him developing this sort of amazement towards voices, you could say, when he met the characters in real life and then sees them act on the shows performing the characters. That's what interested him in radio, being behind the scene, the voice, you could say. So after this, obviously at an early age, was 5, 6 when this was happening in his life. He then moved, obviously, into high school, went through his high school, and then went to college. And in his college was where he actually first started to develop his radio career. He was the DJ for his college station. His program it wasn't as controversial as it is now, but he did have that sort of comedy sketches to it, hosting several different comedy programs weekly on the radio in his college. And sort of this is where he developed a name for himself. I think people started to realise, well, wait, this man is kind of funny. He gained his radio license in college as well, which was quite smart from him. So at least at an early age, as soon as he finished his college, he could go straight into radio. He studied communications in college as well. Now, the first influences were obviously the cartoon characters' voices, but also there had to be, as he grew on in life, he couldn't just base his influence off that. So the way he developed his air style was listening to tapes of Steve Dahl and Gary Mayer. And these were sent to him by one of his friends in Chicago, who also noticed that he was kind of similar to them. So if he looked at these past professional radio presenters, then he could, sort of develop his own style, but in a professional way. His friend was a chief engineer at the radio station in Chicago, WCCC. When he came onto radio and people were asking, well, why are you being so controversial and so open and stuff like that? And a quote that I found that he said, and it's pretty much just sums up exactly what he's like on radio. I decided to cut down the barriers, strip down all the ego, and be totally honest. And that's pretty much exactly what he does. He, says what he wants, doesn't care what anyone thinks, and screw it. So, in his early career, he worked in Detroit and New York and Washington, D.C. for the main radio stations. In D.C. was the big gig. The other ones in New York was slightly smaller until he went back there later on in his career. And then Detroit actually was also quite a big radio station as well. Howard has had a lot of troubles, you could say. He been suspended quite a lot from his work just because of his outburst. But in his first month, he was suspended for... The first main thing was the Virgin Mary Kong. It was a video game where a group of men persuaded the Virgin Mary around a singles bar in Jerusalem. Now, this was his own creation, and you can see, obviously, why he was suspended. I don't know who in the right mind can think of things like that, but he did. The station also hired someone to stop Howard every time he went on one of his rants or one of his outbursts. So they hired an attorney, and they created a thing called the dump button. So as soon as they could hear Howard starting to say fucking all sorts of things, hit the dump button, and that would cut him off. He always fought with the director of the radios, obviously, because they're the people who stop him from saying what he wants. He used to call his director, Kevin Metheny, from New York, a pig virus. He did have a little sidekick presenting for many years, which was Robin Quivers. and his jokes were mainly based off sexual and religious discussions. Howard was also into TV, and he did a few little TV programs. They grossed over 10 million. In 92, Sterin was also sued by the Filipino American Citizens Group for 65 million, claiming that Howard insulted the entire Filipino race. Which, once I quote what he said, I think you would agree with him. I think they eat their young over there. The Philippines is a country where fathers sell their daughters for sex. And I'll leave you with that comment just to think about. Howard also wrote books, which grossed over 16 million. In his later career, he got into politics. He tried to run for local elections in New York. He based his things off bringing in the death penalty, limit road work to night hours, and staggering highway tolls. Also, now, for the past 5 years, Howard has become a judge on American Idol. He has this prestigious award just based off his background. He has also won 7 years in a row being top rated radio presenter. He was introduced to the National Radio Hall of Fame in 2012. And also in 1992, Sterin became the first radio presenter to have the #1 morning show in New York and Los Angeles simultaneously. Sterin is now banned, or not banned, but he chooses not to present on the normal radio stations here in the country because they have too many rules and stuff. So he has moved his operations to offline or internet access only, really, radio stations or satellite radio, and that is now where he performs his work. Thank you.